Hey, sup, it's Webb here again. Again, this is my second review on the channel, and as I promised at the end of the Periphery review, which you can still check out, the album I'm reviewing today it's not new, it's not brand new, but it was only released last year, so it's not exactly an ancient release. If you take my meaning. It's an album that for me was one of the most important of last year in particular, what turned out what turned into one of the best albums of the year. It's by famous sort of grunge metal, sludge metal style band Alice in Chains, and the album was called "The Devil Put the Dinosaurs Here." Now, no, now instantly one of them, I thought that's a really bizarre title for an album. I just thought it doesn't make any sense. But I assume, but there's a title, but there is a title track, a song of the same title on the album itself, and and the lyrical content of the song makes it make so much more sense. A whole the, the basic thing behind the album, I believe there's an underlying lyrical theme wise. There's an underlying theme of corruption in the album, be it from the world around you or religion, or I think religion is probably one of the strongest indicators. It's like a lot of grunge. It's not exactly the happiest music in the world, but again, that's sort of stylistic and it works that way. Uh, before I go further, a little background on Alice in Chains. They released, I believe it was, 3 albums with their original vocalist Lane Stanley during during the mid during the 1990s, and they were thought of as highly at that point. They were sort of in sort of upper echelons of American rock in the same way that Metallica were at the time, Guns N' Roses were at the time, and Nirvana were at the time. They were thought of extremely highly. But then Stanley, the vocalist, then passed away from a heroin overdose. So therefore, the band would take the band would go to take a lot of time off before finding a replacement vocalist, which they found in the form of William Duval, who not only was who was replacement vocalist, became Anthony's second guitarist. And the first album with William Duval, what was the previous release actually, which released in 2009. I can't remember the title off the top of my head. Something I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But yes, they've been carrying on touring and been writing this album ever since then. Ugh. Okay, to talk about the production of this album is to say simply that it's loud. Whoever's produced it has done a very good job of giving all the instruments a very good volume booster. Apart from the bass, which is my one main problem with this album, is that unless it's playing on its own, the bass guitar in the tracks isn't always very noticeable. And as a bass player myself, I get that that's I understand that that's sadly becoming more of a popular way of doing things, but it is actually quite upsetting because there's not a lot nicer than a nice, well mixed bass guitar in your track. Um, yeah, say apart from that, the drums, the vocals, and the guitars, and all the kind of this album has a few other sound effecty bits, sort of almost soundscapey type things going on, and they're all mixed in very well, which makes me wonder why they couldn't just also mix the bass the same way. But who am I to question the wisdom of an actual producer? A critic, a critic, I guess. Uh, Now, musically, I'd say the songs are all very similar. Alice in Chains are a band that very much predicted that kind of sludgy, slow, progressive style of grunge, which is using like strange time signatures, sludgy, heavy, quite slow riffs, and and sort of long, slow vocal phrases to go on top. Almost gives it a kind of stoner metal sort of feel in a way. Most obvious of this again would be the title track. Adele put Dinosaurs here, and the I believe it was the second single, Stone, uh, in particular. And Stone in particular because it uses because it returns to something because it uses for the vast majority of the song it's in 7/8, which not many commercial bands try these days. That's not what all the commercial bands try. So they try and make something in a compound of strange time signature, but to make something that's still commercially viable. And when that's one, they pull it off very well because the riff itself is essentially catchy and simple, but over that time signature, you almost you almost forget how strange, how alien the 7/8 is to you in that kind of situation. Um, and then the other track I'd like to talk, the other main track I'd like to talk about more is Hollow. It was released a while before the rest of the album, and when I first heard it, I thought it was just like a standalone track, which has become a bit more of a trend these days. Bands just releasing tracks that are just standalone songs that aren't even connected to another album. But Hollow, as it turns out, would be the lead single and the first track of the album. I believe one criticism I've heard of the album as a whole is that sometimes the songs go on for a bit too long. And I think Hollow, and possibly also the title track, is where that's almost more obvious than anything else. Not because they're bad, far from it. Fantastic musical ideas. The problem is the fact they're being looped a few too many times, so it's almost like they're losing their impact and making the song feel sluggish, but not in the but not in the way sluggish like it was intended in the composition process. It's not like I'm being negative, but no, honestly, the vocals I think are absolute top draw vocals throughout the album. Jerry Cantrell and William Duval are able to, their voices just, they're good singers on their own, but put them together and it's just like butter melting in your ears. It's been such a long time since I've seen two people's voices suit each other as well as these two. And the harmonies they pull off are just so lovely. Whether they're meant to be calm and sedate, or whether they're meant to be um, harsher, like they are on Stone. Sometimes it's just they suit each other so nicely. I can't think of a better. I can't in metal music. I can't think of a better combination of vocalists in heavy music. I honestly can't. Right. Yeah. I guess that's everything I would like to speak about. Now, rating for the album. I give it an 8. Yes, it's a fantastic record, one of the best of last year, and I will stand by my assessment of that. What lets it down more than anything else is the production of it. Again, I say the lack of bass for me is a very personal gripe, and the repetition of the sections in the songs. I feel it's something that they could that I'm not one to say how you should write your song, but if it were me, I'd keep all the bits, but I'd make it go on for a little bit less time. That's what I have to say. Great album. Ironically, would have been great if it was slightly shorter. Right. Thanks. See you guys next time. Bye.